becoming to understand the importance of freedom.
Live from Studio 2, this is the Rob Ceru program.
Hello everyone and welcome to the program. Today, as we have for many, many years now, realized that America that we grew up in is gone. Things are different now. Our freedom is now replaced by free things, entitlement, loss of empathy for one another, depending upon who you are, more entitlement, scamming, hacking. And we beg for more security, not realizing the more security we ask for from our leaders equals less freedom. No matter what side of politics you're on, we must realize that freedom is what connects us. It's the common bond. It seems today it's every man for him or herself. We're being infiltrated in a way that bypasses our rules and our American way of life. For example, a bill has been proposed into New York City, I just learned about this, that allows legally documented residents, which just means you're not officially documented, you're legally documented, to vote if you've resided in the city, New York, for 6 months. No citizenship required, no application needed, no criminal background check to make sure you're not a bad guy going against the country, no nothing. Just get here any way you can. No record of you, be here 6 months and you're good to go. It seems like there is no more accountability. It seems like that we are no more accountable for our government than illegals who come here and stay illegally and cause problems. We're all immigrants. Don't get me wrong. We are all immigrants in some respect going down our ancestry path, right? However, come here legally, just the way 95% of people did. Come here by application so we can make sure you're a safe person and not a threat to the United States, so we don't get hit with another terror attack. Or are you the parasite to society? We don't even know who people are that are coming across the borders and through the oceans here anymore. Are we asking too much? Apparently so. For votes, our corrupt federal politicians are skirting the Constitution, which was based over 240 years ago, as you already know. And America is now more fragile than ever. And this is only one issue that spills into many, many others. Do you feel safer today, America, or unsafe? I think we all know America has lots of problems, not to mention the financial problems thanks to bailouts by printing money since 2008. Where's your bailout? Where's my bailout? Oh, I forgot, bailouts are only for large businesses in bed with the Washington bureaucrats. Your federal politicians, folks, are disintegrating your country. Let's get to work with the top stories of the week. These, please understand, this is the America we live in now. I'm going to start off with the first topic. This one is going to be striking. It's about the Girl Scouts of America. They are now, their founding was in 1912. They're now allowing boys who identify as girls, boys, okay, boys, who identify as girls to enroll as just that, girls. Andrea Bastian Archibald, selected as the Girl Scouts of America's chief girl expert, says that it's the right of boys to do this, irrespective of how parents want to raise their kids in guidance. The American Family Association is collecting 33,000 signatures against the movement. There is pushback against this. We're talking about children, folks. We're not talking about kids of age. The AFA is against the movement, obviously. They say, quote, "I think this is a place, frankly, for the church and for people that are marginalized in society, for us to love them. But we also can't lose our minds," said Penny Lace of Concerned Women for America. I want you to take a look at this video regarding what the Girl Scouts of America and where this is headed.
Well, being a girl is about to become optional for future Girl Scouts. Listen to this. The organization will now accept boys if they consider themselves to be a girl, bringing the transgender debate right into the forefront there. So is this just another far-left move from that group? Joining us now is Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for being with us here. What does this say to you with the latest Girl Scouts move?
You know, the Girl Scouts, here we go again. You know, they've been lurching to the left, Elizabeth, since the 1970s. Unfortunately, they took God out of the pledge. They hold up feminist icons to their girls as heroes, people like Betty Friedan and Wendy Davis, on and on and on. I have good friends whose daughters are in Girl Scout, but it makes it harder and harder for them to stay. And now with this latest move, they're no longer Girl Scouts, they're just Scouts, and that's fine if they want to rebrand, but it raises all kinds of complications and questions for parents, volunteer parents who are involved. How are they supposed to manage this? How are they supposed to protect their own children's privacy? It's very complicated and very difficult.
You know, I'm looking at the numbers here. Between 2003 and 2014, membership in the Girl Scouts has dropped by 1 million. That's roughly 27%, and this could be, as you indicated, a reason why. But let me ask you, does this start when a child considers themselves to no longer be a boy? Or is it when the school recognizes it? Because their statement says this: if the child is recognized by the family and school community as a girl and lives culturally as a girl, then the Girl Scouts as an organization, they can serve her in a setting that is both emotionally and physically safe. Does that satisfy you if it's gone through the rings of church and school and family that they are now considering this boy to be a girl? Should the Girl Scouts then do the same?
How does this work? I mean, I really don't understand, honestly. You have, you know, this is really not about the children, right? This is about adults who don't really want there to be genders in society. They don't believe there's two genders. In fact, when I was prepping for this, I realized I counted, and they count about 20 genders, and one of them is asexual. So that means depending on the day, how you feel. So how are we going to manage this? About, you know, if it were really about the kids, anyone that's sane would not think throwing a little boy who's confused, who's dealing with some hard issues, into a tent with middle school girls, which, by the way, there's whole books written about how brutal they can be, is a good idea. And we're seeing this, by the way, Elizabeth, you might know, in public schools all over the country. In Virginia, where I live, we just had a real situation where they sent a little 14-year-old girl into a locker room to change with boys. Like, we're not sure how this is all going to work out. We've got to love these kids, and we got to love these parents who are dealing with gender dysphoria, but we shouldn't lose our minds.
You know, it's interesting when you think about just the support or lack thereof that's around these institutions here. Girl Scouts no longer requiring you to be a girl right there. Penny Nance, thank you for joining us today.
You see where this is going, folks? If you take away gender from the equation, what next? The breaking down of the family is what is happening in America, and the families are what bonds us. The family is what keeps us whole. This is what's happening in this country. The AFA also says this policy undermines the Girl Scouts of America's leadership to make wise decisions and obligations that the Girl Scouts has to protect its daughters. Please stop listening to the few individuals who would use young boys as pawns to the culture war to destroy the organization process of advancing their social agenda. That's what they say. But let me tell you something, folks. The Girl Scouts was founded in 1912, and the oath requires the girls to pledge to serve God and my country, but permits to substitute wording appropriate to their own spiritual beliefs for the word God. This was probably added on at some other point. Make your own decisions, folks. You know what's wrong or right. Moving on tonight, we have a lot to cover. That shooting in Waco, Texas, that happened a couple of days ago, where there was a war between three rival biker gangs, erupted in Waco this past Sunday morning in a parking lot of a restaurant. It resulted in 9 dead, 18 seriously injured. It started with fists and chains, then knives, then guns. Nobody knows what started it. The police are very upset with restaurant management. The management served the gangs, knew nothing, and they claimed to have they knew of the trouble, but didn't want to pass it on to law enforcement and always welcomed their business. Take a look at this video regarding this.
170 individuals have been charged with engaging in organized crime in reference to a capital murder case at Twin Peaks. That basically says that 170 people have been involved in capital murder. The DA would probably be better able to answer those legal questions on that, but I can tell you 170 individuals are being booked and processed, if that's not already complete, for engaging in organized crime. That organized crime is capital murder at the Twin Peaks restaurant.
Look, I say, folks, I think you would tend to agree with me. No innocent bystanders got hurt. If the bad guys want to hurt themselves, so be it. No innocent bystanders got hurt. That's the good news out of this. If you want to talk about the guns being on the street, hey, look, even if you don't want guns around, you're never going to be able to get the guns off the street. Let's move on tonight on that, where the happy note is that nobody innocent got hurt regarding that shootout down south in Texas. I want to talk to you. Familiar with Ron Paul? He asks, are we a nation of wimps? Sometimes I have to say a lot of people are, due to political correctness and being afraid to speak up. Dr. Paul argues that us Americans have allowed our leaders to pervert our Constitution, wreak havoc upon the economy, and carry out war upon nations that have almost no power to fight back. I agree. Not to speak is to speak, folks. Not to act is to act. If you're too afraid to speak up for what you believe in at this point, while you still have your freedom of speech, I believe you are speaking. It seems that a lot of people are, in fact, scared to speak. You have to make your voice known. If you want to change America, it's done one person, one individual at a time. Make no doubt about it that your voice and your vote counts, because we as Americans and as a country as a whole are at a tipping point. I want to talk to you tonight about another topic, moving on quite quickly tonight, about 190 American cities that have been infiltrated with covert and unscreened Islamic jihadists. It's been questionable. What is Islam? What is that religion? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ugly? Well, let me tell you, you make the decision on that. I will tell you, though, that the United States is the equivalent, folks, of a four-letter word that I'm not going to say here. That's how the Middle East views us. The Middle East hates Americans. They want their laws adopted here. The Obama administration, I have found out through my sources, is now placing hundreds of cities, up to 190 of cities in America, at risk by placing unscreened Muslims as refugees from where we start our pretexts of war, for excuses to invade and send our military in for wars that never seem to end, and about 100,000 of these refugees, unscreened, are in American cities throughout the country. They're being spread out. Now, there's about a 7 billion person population on the global planet Earth, and out of that, there's about 1.5 billion Muslims. And many Muslims, 80%, have disassociated themselves from extremist views. They're very good people, most of them, just like Christians. But it seems like all of this refugee resettlement, if you will, is based on foreign wars. Tennessee alone is getting 10,000 unscreened Somali Muslims this year alone, resulting in culture clashes. And let me tell you something, folks. It's the key word here is unscreened. Come to America. Come to a better life while it still exists here in America. America's not going to be the same in 20 years from now, I guarantee it. But I will tell you, for the time being, you're coming here, bypassing the immigration rules and applications to come here legally based on refugee resettlement. Take a look at what's happening in Tennessee alone.
Where the walking horse is king. There's Main Street, the local sheriff, a movie theater. It's all very Mayberry, except for one big difference: the recent arrival of hundreds of Somali Muslims.
Shelbyville, Tennessee is about an hour's drive from Nashville, in the heart of the Bible Belt. This is small town USA, and like many Americans, people here knew little about Somalia other than the 1993 Black Hawk Down incident, in which 18 U.S. servicemen were killed while battling Islamic jihadists and warlords in the Somali capital of Mogadishu. So when hundreds of Somalis began turning up here in Shelbyville, many of them dressed in traditional Islamic garb, locals quickly took notice.
They've had an impact here. Unfortunately, it's not been a good impact.
Local columnist Brian Mosley won an award from the Associated Press for a series of articles he wrote about Shelbyville Somalis.
I found that there was just an enormous culture clash going on here. The Somalis were, according to many of the people I talked to here, were being very, very rude, inconsiderate, being very demanding. They would go into stores and haggle over prices. Their culture is totally alien to anything that the folks here are used to.
The problems extend to local schools, where some Somali students won't talk to female administrators. There's also been issues with local law enforcement.
And I'm not really sure if that's because of their experiences with the police in their country, or if that's just the way their culture is.
What happens when there's a culture clash? Our federal government has us Americans accounted for through name, full name, social security number, real documentation. What are we going to do? What's going to happen in Tennessee alone, where the laws of Sharia might prevail? What's going to happen when there's a clash saying, if a crime is committed for somebody we can't even get a name out of, I want to know who this person is so they can be tried in an American court, or do we try them under Sharia law? What happens? There's a huge pushback, folks, regarding Sharia law. It's compared to the Constitution and due process that we have here in the homeland. Sharia law, in contrast to our due process and American way of justice, looks very barbaric. You know what this stuff is about. I don't have to tell you. If it's banned, it seems like every state is going to have to do a vote on it based on the pushback that happens from people coming here. I believe that the U.S. Constitution prevails under any circumstances. But if you're not here legally and you're being placed here as a refugee, and we don't know who you are, and you could tell us that you're anybody, I have a real problem with that, because that is scary. Look at what we did with Timothy McVeigh after he blew up Oklahoma City, okay? A Christian white guy, okay? Former President George W. Bush signed executive order and put him to death, end of story, okay? What are we doing with other, and that wasn't even, see, the Christianity thing never even came about with him. But why are we tiptoeing around religion when it's about in individual crimes or in crimes against humanity? What does Muslim, Jewish, Christian, any of that have to do with anything? Why do we have to bend down and sort of like accept and bypass the way of doing things? Do you drive on the right side of the road, for crying out loud? I do. Heck, let's not have no rules anymore. Let's make this a rulesless society. And then you see how much longer you have America. Folks, we're not asking for much. We're telling you, come here if you can. Come here for a better life if you can while it exists. But we're also saying do it through the right avenues. Do it through the right course of action. And you're more than welcomed. This is the America we're living in now. We don't know who's who, what, or where. And I have a real problem with that, and that could be the reason why we have another terror attack in America. I believe that human beings as a whole are good, but I got to tell you, I don't think that we're looking at much more time before something else on a national level happens. I hope I'm wrong. We have to account for people that come here, whether they're refugees or not. You have to come here through the normal course of legality. And then I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. If you come here through the normal course and have yourself documented, it's really no problem. We're Americans. We're compassionate to everybody. We know we have it good here. But however, it seems like the country's being watered down. We do not have an accountability. Federal and state government officials have said we don't know who is here. We don't know some of the bad guys that are here. And I guarantee you, out of 100,000 refugees, that there are at least a few, and I'm talking minimum, that want to cause major, major damage to the United States through a caliphate and through Sharia law. You make the decision. In the future, when we go live, I would like to take your calls regarding this and your comments, because you need to exercise your freedom of speech. Your First Amendment is everything. If you don't have a voice, what do you have? Folks, let me move on tonight. South Carolina, the state of South Carolina, the Democrats down there are opposing legislation that will ban Islamic Sharia law from state courts. Now, this is a Republican-sponsored anti-Sharia law legislation which would ensure that Islamic foreign laws are kept out of South Carolina courts, just South Carolina alone. It's being blocked by the Democrats who seek to appease supremacist and radical laws from taking place. There's a Republican guy, his name is Representative Chip Limehouse. He said the law is needed to prevent radical Islamic beliefs from entering state courts. I agree. Do you want that if you are somehow arrested? Would you like to be tried under Sharia law? I would not, and I don't think you would either. I think that's a very fair statement. Okay? A fear in terror groups such as ISIS don't end up in U.S. courts. ISIS is the tip of the iceberg. You have the Electric Syrian Army, you have Al-Qaeda, you have subgroups of Al-Qaeda, at least 20 or 30. You're probably talking about 40 different terror groups in all. And each one says, I'm not with them. But then who are you with? The Muslim Brotherhood, a confirmed terror group, just to name a few, who want to push these laws down your throat. I'm sorry. This is America, founded on the Constitution and a Bill of Rights. This is the laws that we're governed by. We're not going to replace those laws with laws that could put Americans in jeopardy or locked up or executed for the wrong reasons. I'm sorry, I think the American way, the American judicial system is as good as it's going to get. Yes, it has flaws, but it's good right where it is. We don't need to change something like that for anything that involves a radicalization. Now, as far as religion is concerned, you are welcome here in America to practice any religion you want as long as it's not extreme or is going to promote or cause harm against another individual. I think that's fair too. What am I saying here that you might disagree with? I don't really think anything. I think it's a real fair, I think it's a real balanced approach, what I'm telling you right now. But I would love your calls because this is what I'm here for, is to collaborate with you in the future. Now, Representative Limehouse, going back to him, he cited that the Center for Security Policy, he has prompted them, which states that the U.S. is going to introduce laws banning practice of Sharia. Now, imagine being tried under Sharia instead of American due process. That would be something else. Moving on tonight with another story. The House voted to pass late-term abortions. There was an issue where, after 5 months, 20 weeks, can't do it. There was a hard push, I would say within the last 12 to 24 months or so, where certain groups, women wanted rights to have an abortion up to the 9th month, sometimes post-birth abortions. What is that, you say? I didn't even know what that was. Post-birth abortion is the termination of the baby upon birth. Groups wanted to have the right to do this up to the moment of birth, which I think in itself, look, please, folks, don't get me wrong, but I mean, is that life at that point? Is 9 months a life, or are we still going to call it a fetus? I mean, come on. How far, folks, are we going to push the envelope? The exceptions for this 5-month federal rule now are rape, incest, or to preserve a mother's life. Okay? Also, it gets a little more descriptive than that. A doctor may perform late-term abortions under those exceptions only in a manner that provides the unborn baby the best opportunity to survive abortion. Now, I did not know, I thought abortion was automatically termination, but it's not. And it turns out that the baby could live if an abortion is performed early. And I guess at that point, what do you do? Adoption or something else? I remember there was this one story. It was striking, and I ran across it by accident, regarding a priest who says that, that believes that life, along with many scientists, life is a life upon conception, period. And there was proofs behind it that I don't have time to get into now. But this priest said, I am the product of I believe it was an abortion, and because my mother didn't want me, and he survived. It was incredible. I want you to take a look at these women's groups here regarding who want to protect the unborn, who are sort of right-wing.
Republicans finally won U.S. House approval Wednesday for a late-term abortion ban after dropping rape provisions that provoked a rebellion by female Republican lawmakers, forcing party leaders into an embarrassing retreat. The near-party line 242 to 184 vote marked a victory for anti-abortion lawmakers and organizations. But the path to passage took months of negotiations among those groups, female lawmakers and party leaders, underscoring how tough it will be for the Republicans to satisfy anti-abortion forces while retaining support from women voters for the next year's elections. Even with House passage, the measure stands little chance of becoming law. Its fate is uncertain in the more moderate Senate, and President Barack Obama would likely veto it, leaving it chiefly a way for the Republicans to underscore their backing for the anti-abortion goals of some of its most ardent supporters.
Folks, you see it there. There's just as many women that are pro-life that there is pro-choice. There is a war going on out there on what's right and what's wrong. That's up to you to decide. If you ever ask me my opinion live, I'll give it to you, but I'm not going to just offer it. As a member of the Free Press, I'd like to try to remain balanced and fair with you and try to give you the facts and let you decide. These are the stories that I come up with. They're not fun. They're not sexy, if you will, but they are real. And this is what's going on around America now. There's battles everywhere. Ever since Roe versus Wade, 1973, 42 years going forward. That lady, who wanted to change the laws, and the Supreme Court was very successful, and now goes around to colleges. Roe versus Wade, the Roe versus Wade lady says, you know what, I am so sorry what I did. Guilty to this point. You should take life, never take life for granted, is terribly guilty and upset about what she did, and for changing the course of humanity, where a lot of people say we've had over 50 million abortions since 1973. Folks, I'm out of time, but I just want to let you know I will see you next time. It's a pleasure to be here at LMC TV. Thank you, everybody, for being on this very broadcast with your supportive roles. I do appreciate your time, and I will see you next time here on Rob Ceru Live. I'm Rob Ceru. Thank you very much for being here. Good night now.